Let's be real. We're all drowning in data, but here's the thing. With more information at our fingertips than ever before, why are so many companies still struggling to make better decisions? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and show you the blueprint for turning all that data chaos into some real, actionable clarity. Every single day, businesses are creating just mountains of new data. But the really valuable stuff, the game-changing insights, they're not just sitting there on the surface. Nope, they're buried deep inside, which means most companies are sitting on a massive, untapped gold mine of information, and a lot of them don't even know it. So check this out. According to the research firm Gartner, a truly staggering 80% of all the new data that companies generate falls into one very specific and, let's just say, incredibly challenging category.
And that category is what we call unstructured data. I want you to think about all the customer emails you get, social media posts, videos, even sensor readings. This stuff is just packed with valuable human context. But because you can't just drop it neatly into a spreadsheet with rows and columns, it's been a total nightmare to analyze at scale.
Okay, now here is where things get really crazy. The Harvard Business Review looked into this, and out of all that valuable, messy, unstructured data, what percentage do you think actually gets analyzed or used in any meaningful way?
Yeah, less than 1%. That reveals a Grand Canyon-sized gap between the data we're collecting and the value we're actually getting from it. It is, without a doubt, one of the biggest missed opportunities in business today.
And you know, it's not like companies aren't trying. Accenture found that most organizations know this gold mine exists, but they're struggling to build that bridge that turns raw information into actual, tangible results.
So how do we start building that bridge? Well, the very first step is always about understanding what you're working with. So let's break down the different kinds of data and the tools that are designed to bring some order to this chaos.
First up, you've got structured data. This is the stuff we're all familiar with. It's highly organized, everything's clearly defined, and it's basically built for easy analysis. You know, think of a classic customer database or your financial spreadsheets. Nice and neat. Then you've got the middle child of the data world, semi-structured data. It doesn't have that super rigid table format, but it does have useful tags or markers that give it some kind of internal organization. Emails and web pages are really perfect examples of this. And that brings us back to the big one, unstructured data. This is the beast. This is that massive 80% we were just talking about. All the documents, the images, the social media chatter that holds so much potential but has absolutely no predefined model.
So that begs the question, right? You can't just dump all these different data types into one giant digital bucket and just hope for the best. You've got to have the right systems for the right job. So where do you put it all?
This is where two key tools come into play, and they're actually perfect complements to each other. On one side, you have the data warehouse. Think of it like a perfectly organized, pristine library. It's ideal for business analysts to need cleaned, processed data to answer the questions they already have. But on the other side, you have the data lake. That's more like an explorer's workshop. It's where data scientists can sift through all that raw, unprocessed data in all its messy glory to discover entirely new questions you didn't even know you should be asking.
All right, so you've got your data, you've got it organized, you've got it stored in the right places. Now what? Well, it turns out there's a really clear 6-step blueprint that successful organizations follow to turn all that raw data into real, actual insight. And honestly, the best way to picture this blueprint is to think of a factory assembly line. You start with your raw materials, all that messy, chaotic data, and at each station along the line, you refine it, you add value, until you come out the other end with a finished, polished product. A powerful business insight. This assembly line has a name. It's called the data value chain. So let's follow one little piece of data on its journey. It starts with Genesis. Bam, the moment it's born, like a click on your website. Then collection scoops it up and brings it into the factory. Processing is where it gets cleaned up and transformed into something usable. Storage puts it on the shelf so it's easy to find. Analysis is where the magic happens, where it gets assembled into a real insight. And finally, activation. That's where you push that insight out to a person or a system to actually drive a business decision. Every step just builds right on the last one. Okay, so theory is great, but let's see how this assembly line actually works in the real world. We're going to look at a fantastic example of a budget airline that used this exact process to solve a very, very expensive problem. Their problem was pretty simple, but it was costing them a fortune. They either stocked way too many in-flight meals and wasted a ton of money, or they stocked too few and ended up with hungry, unhappy customers. Either way, they were losing.
Now, at first, they were looking at the obvious stuff. The size of the plane, the number of passengers, but it wasn't working. So they started digging deeper into the data they already had, looking for more subtle signals hiding just below the surface, like, where's the flight going? What time of day is it? And this was a big one, do the passengers have connecting flights? And by digging into that more complex combo of data, they found one signal that was just unbelievably powerful. Their entire multi-million-dollar problem, it all boiled down to a single game-changing number.
And here it is. They discovered that flights to and from India required 73% more vegetarian meals. That one super specific, actionable insight allowed them to stock their planes with incredible accuracy. They slashed waste, they boosted their profits, and they made their customers a whole lot happier.
But here's the thing. None of this, not the analysis, not the insights, not the value, none of it is even possible without a solid foundation. You've got to have a clear set of rules for the road to make it all work safely and effectively.
And that's called data governance. It is literally the official rulebook for your data. And look, this isn't about locking data away or restricting access. It's actually the opposite. It's about making sure your data is high quality, secure, and available to the right people at the right time.
You see, strong governance is what makes everything else work. It builds trust in your data, which means people actually believe the insights. It helps you stay compliant with regulations and manages huge security risks. But maybe the most important thing it does is it allows you to safely democratize your data, giving more people across your entire organization the access and the confidence they need to make smarter, faster decisions.
Look, at the end of the day, from organizing the chaos, to building a value chain, to setting clear rules, the whole point is to finally start listening to what your data has been trying to tell you all along. So the question is, are you ready to hear it?